You're about to see why 5 fast food giants belong on your personal no-fly list, starting with the chain federal prosecutors called out with the largest food safety fine in U.S. history. If you think fresh means safer, you might want to hear this before your next lunch run. We'll map how high-touch prep, thin oversight, and sick worker policies turn routine meals into repeat outbreaks. Then we'll show you a quick way to audit any spot in 30 seconds, so you keep your money and your gut out of trouble. Quick favor before we move on. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 92% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video. Let's start with the promise you paid for. Fresh prep, chopped in store, protein seared on site. It sounds safer, cleaner, better for you.
Burger King says it's focused on onions. The FDA says slivered ones on some quarter pounders might have been contaminated, although it's still investigating. An E. coli outbreak tied to some McDonald's quarter pounders has other chains implementing new safeguards. Those businesses have not been linked to recently reported cases. Burger King says 5% of its restaurants use one of the same onion suppliers as McDonald's and have disposed of the vegetables. That's even though Burger King gets its onions whole.
The truth is, that model stacked more chances to fail, and it ended with prosecutors calling out adulterated food and a record-setting fine. Fresh became a stage where small misses turned into big sick days. Here is how the risk sneaks in. More hands on the line, more steps, more surfaces. A bus tub of romaine arrives, gets stored, rinsed, drained, chopped, portioned, and held. Each move adds a roll of the dice when staff turnover is constant and training is thin. Pre-cooked or vacuum-sealed systems limit touchpoints and lock in safe temps. Scratch cooking asks humans to nail it, every shift, under a lunch rush. Walk a single ingredient from truck to tray. Case dropped in the walk-in. Bag opened. Sink rinse. Cutting board. Knife. Hotel pan. Coldwell. Tongs. One missed sanitizer change or a board that did raw before produce, and cross-contamination spreads fast. Now compare that to sealed pouches heated to a set temperature with a timer and a log. Fewer doors to open. Fewer ways to blow it.
The CDC says the burgers have been connected to more than 4 dozen infections. At least one person has died and several remain hospitalized. More than half of those infections were reported in Colorado.
E. coli is found in the intestines of cattle, and it usually in the intestines is surrounded by either the meat or the hide. And so if there's cross-contamination there at slaughter, this is where we get E. coli into the product. You know, McDonald's had an outbreak of E. coli back in the 80s, and they instituted incredibly effective policies and procedures and technologies to make sure their hamburger patties were cooked well enough and long enough to the right temperature.
Oversight gaps make it worse. Decentralized stores push control down the chain. Managers juggle speed, labor cuts, and safety logs, and the log often loses. Franchise-style dynamics blur who enforces what. Corporate rights binders. The line cooks live in real time. Then there is norovirus. It thrives in tight, fast kitchens. The CDC ties most foodborne norovirus outbreaks to infected workers. Staff feel pressure to show up sick, shifts run light, and enforcement is weak. That is how outbreaks cluster again and again. Federal cases laid out adulterated food and recurring lapses across years, capped by a $25 million penalty. Not a fluke, a pattern. Complex prep plus supplier risk is a bad mix. One dirty nozzle, one missed temp, one board not sanitized, and the mistake scales across an hour of orders.
People are thinking about breakfast and dinner plans for the weekend. Restaurants say you shouldn't have to worry about E. coli despite an outbreak that is tied to certain McDonald's quarter pounder.
The parent company of Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and KFC says it's removing fresh onions from menus at some locations just to be safe. As for McDonald's, it says any contaminated products are likely out of the supply chain by now.
They're now taking extra steps to make sure that all of their food is safe too. They say there have been no reported cases that have been linked to their restaurants and that they are acting out of an abundance of caution.
So it takes testing and auditing and validation that would take place much earlier in the cycle to prevent contaminated ingredients such as these fresh produce items to even get to the facilities and franchises.
Fresh isn't safer by default. In high-volume chains, scratch cooking without hard controls multiplies failure points. If that model can buckle, now let's move on to what happens when the flaw starts upstream at the biggest player. What happens when one dirty part upstream quietly feeds thousands of stores? Scale turns a small miss into a brand-wide problem in days. Central suppliers sell you consistency, but the same pipe, valve, or blade touches product for half the country. If that surface is dirty, the mistake repeats like a rubber stamp. Let's start with the 2024 case tied to a major produce supplier serving the world's biggest burger chain. Investigators confirmed an E. coli outbreak and flagged contamination risks from equipment buildup at the supplier's facility. That is a straight line from one plant to many states. It is the dark side of efficiency. Now the real kicker. Central kitchens and suppliers run fast, and fast favors residue. Biofilm is the slimy layer that bacteria build like a shield. Quick rinses do not break it. Unless a plant strips that film on schedule, it survives, spreads, and seeds the next run. One missed deep clean, and your lettuce carries a hitchhiker. History says this is not new. Earlier large outbreaks tied to meat suppliers show the same blind spot. When the upstream gate fails, everything down the line pays. It is a rerun we keep airing, just with different ingredients. Zoom out to other giants. Investigative sweeps have logged widespread critical violations at Burger King locations across regions and years. Wendy's took a multi-state E. coli hit in 2022, faced lawsuits, and pulled romaine in affected restaurants while investigators worked the source. Local inspections still catch basics: dirty soda nozzles, food on the floor, raw next to ready to eat. None of that is exotic. It is day one food safety. Here is the inspection reality. Most places see an inspector once or twice a year, sometimes with a heads up. The franchise model spreads control thin. Corporate writes the playbook, local owners run the clock. Gaps show up between visits. The bigger the web, the faster a small sanitation miss becomes your lunch. So how do you spot trouble fast, before you order, and keep both your cash and your gut intact? Safety rides on touchpoints and controls, not glossy claims about freshness or size. Fewer hands, tighter temperature logs, clear holding times. That beats staged ads every day. The truth is, chains that keep it simple and track the basics serve fewer surprises. Do a 30-second audit. Ask what temp they hold hot and cold. Look for labeled sanitizer buckets. Watch if gloves change after cash, phones, or trash. Scan for timestamps on pans. If this gave you something to chew on, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who eats on the run. Vote with your money. Skip chains where complexity and weak oversight already told the story.